Alright, now we're doing 8Q, convert a string to a number. This is by Baquez, and 88% of people like it. So we need a function that can transform a string into a number. In what ways, what ways of achieving this do we know? Alright, don't worry, all inputs will be strings, and every string is a perfectly valid representation of an integral number. Alright, so all these strings are going to be turned into these numbers. So there's a few ways to do this, as you can see by what I've got open so far. Let's just try a few to start off with. Let's come down here and say return str, and then we're going to put this in the number constructor. So let's say in front of this, we'll have this in parentheses and say number like this. And if you don't know about the number constructor, basically it creates number objects, but really when called instead as a function, it performs type conversion to a primitive number, which is usually more useful. And that's what I've always used it for. I don't even know what the other thing's for. So let's check this, test it, looks good, attempt it, make sure there's no tricks, looks great. So that's just one way. There's a few other ways we could do. We could get crazy and say return plus str. Now what's that? What's that right there? Basically that plus is this unary plus operator, which when it precedes its operand, it evaluates to its operand but attempts to convert it to a number if it isn't already. So it basically just converts whatever to a number as long as it's digits or a number or whatever. And so let's test this out, see if it works. And it does, and attempt it, make sure there's no tricks. And there we go. So let's comment this one out. We've got another way we can do it. We can say return parse int str. What's this? Let's come over here. So parse int function parses a string argument and returns an integer of the specified radix. So basically, the radix that it usually is, that the default radix is 10. It doesn't say it anywhere here. Probably says it somewhere. But anyway, the default radix is 10, so it'll do it to base 10, and we'll just say, let's test it out. And look, now it's base 10. Also, if there's any kind of string after it, test it out. It'll also do the same thing as long as the digits are in the front. If the string's in the front, and it's just going to be a nan, all right? So we can do that. And here's a ridiculous way. We can do definitely a ridiculous way. Actually, let me take this, bring these back up, and let's just comment out the whole thing like this. And then do a control end, another star, another slash, a control home, and an enter like that. So let's do const string to number, and let's just have it equal str like this, and have a little arrow like that. All right, let's do a console.log right here so we can test while we go, and we're going to try to do it in a one-liner method. All right, so let's start off with the str, test it out. All right, looks good. So what I want to do right here is I want to put each one of these characters in its own element in an array. So let's wrap this in brackets first and see what happens. Test it out. Alright, so now we've got the string itself in the brackets, but there's this thing called spread syntax that allows an iterable such as an array or string to be expanded in places where 0 or more arguments or elements are expected. So we can expand this using spread syntax like this. Test it out. And look at that, now we got this going on. So we're going to add all these together by using reduce. Oh, I forgot to show you one. I'll show you one in here. So the reduce method, if you don't know about it, executes a user-supplied reducer callback function on each element of the array in order, passing in the return value from the calculation on the preceding element. The final result of running the reducer across all elements of the array is a single value. The first time that the callback is run, there is no return value of the previous calculation, but if supplied, an initial value may be used in its place. We're going to be doing that. Otherwise, the array element at index 0 is used as the initial value. We can't do that because the array at element 0, at index 0, the element at index 0 is a string, so we can't be adding strings together or we'll just get more strings. So here's this. Perhaps the easiest to understand case for reduce is to return the sum of all elements in an array. So if we sum this together, it's going to give us 10, right? But we can do something else using this reduce method. Let's come back over here just for a second. We're going to be using this right here, this syntax right here, the bottom of the arrow function. We're going to have that array we just made dot reduce. We're going to have accumulator, current value, current index, and array as the arguments. The accumulator is what we're going to be adding all the current values to. The current value is the actual elements as we go to them. The current index is the index that the current value is at right now, and then the array is the whole array, right? Let me show you what we're going to do with this. So let's put another set of parentheses in here. We're going to do accumulator, we're going to do current value, we're going to do index, and we're going to do array like this. And then we're going to have an arrow right here. So first things first, we're going to do accumulator, right? And now we're going to do plus current value. So the current value right now is a string, but the thing I didn't show you down here is if we multiply a string times an actual number, it'll turn that string into a number no matter what, all right? So let me show you what we're going to do with this. So we're going to do current value. And right now we need this 1 to equal 1,000, this to equal 200, this to equal 30, and this to equal 4, right? That's how we'll get 1,234, right? That's just simple little math, right? So we're going to do current value, and the first current value is going to be this 1, and we're going to say times 10 to the, and then the power we want to raise it to is the index. We want to raise it to this index. We want to raise it to 0, 1, 2, 3 to make it 1,000, because 1 times 10 to the third power is 1,000. Hopefully we all know this. So we're going to say times, what are we going to say here? Times the array dot length. So r dot length, which is 4, minus 1, which now makes it 3, minus the index. So this is index 0, so it's going to be minus 1. So this one's array dot length minus 1, which would be 3 minus 1, because this is at 1, so it would be times whatever to the 2 times squared. Anyway, hopefully you get the logic on this, because it's real hard for me to explain it. Now let's just test it out to see what we got going on here. This is not correct. You know why? Because we forgot to put in the initial value, because the first value that went in is this 1. This 1 is a string, and the rest of this is digits, okay? So we're going to have to do this. We're going to say comma 0 like this. Now test it out. And now we got 1, 2, 3, 4 just like that. So let's get this console.log, get rid of it. Bring this up, test it out. Uh-oh, minus 7. Why is this? Because this minus is part of the string, and we can't convert a minus into a number, right? So we're going to have to deal with that. So to do that, we're going to use this conditional operator. If you don't know about the conditional or ternary operator, it's the only JavaScript operator that takes 3 operands: a condition followed by a question mark, then an expression to execute if the condition is truthy, followed by a colon, and finally the expression to execute if the condition is falsy. And this operator is frequently used as an alternative to if-else statements. So we're going to do an if-else statement in here. Look at all this. Look at, we need some room. We need some room bad. Here, that'll give us some room. All right, so first things first, we're going to say right here, we're going to say if str at 0 equals this string with the negative in it, what we're going to do is basically this, but we're going to say negative in front of it, and we've got to start at index 1. So we're going to use the slice method on the string while it's inside this array literal. So if you don't know about the slice method returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array object selected from start to end. End is not included, where start and end represent the index of items in that array, and the original array is not modified. So basically the best example here is this is when starting at 2, 0, 1, 2, so it'll take camel, duck, elephant. What we want to do is have it start at 1, so it gets rid of that minus sign. So we'll say str dot slice from 1. All right. Now let's test it out. Uh-oh, what's wrong here? So what we got to do here is finish up the rest of this ternary operator. So we'll just say right here, just to keep it kind of even looking, a little bit even looking, we'll take this thing, copy it, paste it here, take out that slice, and now let's test it. Oh, look at that. And attempt it, and that's how you turn a string into a number. Let's just comment this out just for a quick brief second, so that I can show you guys the thing with the multiplication thing, just so we have all those bases covered somewhat in this highly organized video. So let's come back down here and we can just say return str, that's not how you spell return, restroom. All right, return str times 1. Test that out, and you see it does work like I said earlier. Hopefully you remember, attempt to make sure there's no tricks, and it does work. So let's comment this out. Let's put this one up there just to be comedians on Codewars. Test it out one more time. What's the problem now? Oh yeah. And this, nope. And this. Test it one more time. Finally, attempt it. Looks perfect. Look, 4 milliseconds. Pretty fast too, believe it or not. Submit it. All right. So, as you see here, first one off the bat, parse int, then we got the number constructor, then we've got the unary plus, then we've got the number constructor, then we've got another comedian, a funnier comedian, making some nonsense. So then you keep going on, and there we go. Let's go over to mine to check it out. Just me on this one. Best practice in my opinion. Yeah, right. Practice in the general sense. We got a lot of practice doing 5 different ways. Very much like it, and we'll see you next time.